This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show. Each episode, you can find back episodes at OVpodcast.com, and also check out the blog at ObsessiveViewer.com, and also check out the subreddit at r/ObsessiveViewer. So this is kind of an impromptu episode. We were originally going to take a week off in order to do some prep work for our Shocktober in Irvington event, which, if you're in the Indianapolis area, on October 16th, we're hosting an event at the Irving Theater to benefit the Irvington Historical Society. We're going to be showing short horror films from local filmmakers and raffling off prizes, including an Amazon Fire TV stick and a bunch of DVDs and gift cards and stuff like that. And, you can find more information at shocktoberinirvington.com.
3 weeks.
3 weeks to... Yeah, it is.
Tomorrow will be 3 weeks away. Well, it's Friday, it'll be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks. Weeks.
Ugh.
Something about weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'm less nervous than I was last year.
Yeah.
And I'm less stressed than I was last year, but I'm still pretty, it'll be fun when it's over. Not to say, that sounds bad.
It's just nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Performing live for people.
And for me, it's not necessarily nerves that it's doing. It's more the uncertainty, because I don't know if anything's going to go wrong or so the nerves there is.
Yeah.
I don't have performance anxiety.
Okay.
But
the good thing is the movies we're showing, the short films we're showing, are going to be able to speak for themselves. Like they can totally stand on their own merit.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter if we screw up.
Exactly.
Those are good movies. People are going to show up and they're going to enjoy those. So that's what really matters. And
exactly. Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're basically presenting things to an audience. So that's I think that's why the stress level of it this year is significantly lower for me. Mm-hmm. But again, that's October 16th. The price is going to be $8 at the door, or $5 if you have a ticket stub from the Irvington Ghost Tours, which is just an awesome walking tour of Irvington that starts this weekend. So if you're listening to this the week of release, it's the Irvington Ghost Tours are happening right now, and go check them out because they're amazing.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So this is just kind of an informal, impromptu episode. I mean, I know that when I go to edit it, Tiny, I'm going to be kind of like, should this be like a bonus episode, a special episode, or something? Because, we're basically, like I said, we didn't have a planned recording session for this week, and then, as luck would have it, today is actually podcast day. And so we just kind of decided to just record something to throw it out there and all that. We're going to talk a little bit about Mad Max Fury Road and a little bit of Potpourri, but for all intents and purposes, this isn't a normal episode. I would say probably
impromptu is a good. No, maybe not special, but impromptu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Half cocked, really. So we both recently watched Mad Max Fury Road, which is a movie that came out months and months ago.
It came out on home video like 6 weeks or a couple months ago. Yeah. So we're way behind the curve on this.
Oh, yeah. And we didn't, I think I mentioned this probably on a Potpourri or something several months ago, but there was a day where I think it was like a Saturday. I had nothing going on. And I was just thinking, like, you know what? I'm going to just sit at home. I'm going to watch all the Mad Max movies, and then I'm going to go straight to the theater and see Fury Road. And then I watched the first Mad Max movie, and I was like, I just can't really get into it. Mm-hmm. So, after I finished it, I was like, I don't really feel like watching The Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'll go see Fury Road eventually, and then it took months to do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a roundabout way of saying, by the way, that was my first time seeing Mad Max. Maybe I'll like it more if I watch it again. I wasn't really expecting an origin story for Mad Max. I just kind of assumed that he was mad from the beginning. And it was kind of off-putting. I mean, it's it's well done for the budget that it had, because it had next to no budget. But I don't know. I get the sense that it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So Tiny, that's kind of a roundabout way of asking, what was your familiarity or what was your relationship with the Mad Max franchise before seeing Fury Road?
Yeah, I had seen the original years ago. I think it was on Netflix. Is it still on Netflix?
I don't think so, no. I didn't get it I got it from Google Play.
I think it was on Netflix for a while, and that's where I watched it. Probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I had a very similar reaction to you. I didn't really care for it that much. To me, it seemed like a excuse to just blow crap up and flip cars over, which there's nothing wrong with that. That stuff was always enthralling and fun to watch, and that was cool. But you can still do that and have a story and some coherent dialogue and build a character and stuff like that. And I think the first one lacked that. I don't even remember it very much.
Yeah, I think it was successful in building the character of Max and at least taking him from one place to another, having a complete arc for the character. But I don't know, like there's a lot of fandom, I guess fandom. I don't know. There's a lot of positive stuff about like, oh, Toe Cutter is a big part of the franchise, or a big part of the whole franchise as a whole, because he's the villain in the first movie. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait, which one's Toe Cutter again? I mean, like that's how much of a disassociation I had with the movie as I was watching it, and that could come down to just mood from watching the not being in the right frame of mind. But I don't know.
It was the franchise was born to be a cult franchise.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no way it could ever be mainstream, but it's just quirky and weird and awesome enough to have a cult following. So it's kind of, it just falls into that category. And I was super excited about this latest entry. I talked about it on our panel that we had at
Popcorn.
No, Starbase
Indy.
Starbase Indy. Sorry, yes. I couldn't think of it. The panel we had there, it's kind of still up in the air. I still need to reply to them about the form, but we are going to be at Starbase Indy this year, at least the Saturday of it. So Thanksgiving weekend,
Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend in Indianapolis.
See, I raved about it at that, and I was like, I can't wait for this. Thing's going to be awesome. And I think I may have talked about it another time after that before it came out in theaters, and I was like, yeah, I can't wait. And then I didn't see it. And then I waited another couple months. It's just hard with, that's not really a couple movie.
Right.
And most of the time, my girlfriend and I usually watch things together, and it's like, I basically just told her the other night, I was like, I'm going to rent Mad Max. You can watch it, or you can go in the other room.
Right.
We just don't have a lot of space, and so it's like we just kind of have the one TV, and so she actually had watched it with me, spent most of the time on her phone, but after about 30, 40 minutes, she kind of put her phone down and actually started watching it.
Nice.
She kind of started to follow it a little bit, and to kind of springboard into the review or the discussion of it.
Yeah, sorry. Before we do that, you haven't seen Road Warrior or Beyond Thunderdome? Okay.
I have not seen.
I have heard that like the Road Warrior and I'm not sure about Beyond Thunderdome, but I know the Road Warrior is supposed to be just amazing.
Right.
So, yeah. Right. But anyway, yeah.
But I think the way my girlfriend Paige reacted to it is kind of a representation of of where the quality in the film comes in. It had an erratic nature to it, and it's just kind of a strange movie, but it piques your curiosity, and you're just clinging onto it throughout the whole movie, and that's what really, despite all the faults I have for it, and all the faults I found in it, and all the things that I wasn't crazy about in it, that curiosity kept me going, and I think there was a pretty solid payoff in the movie. So that's kind of my quick review of it, but what did you how did you feel when you were watching it?
I echo a lot of the sentiments that you had with it. It was a very unique experience in that it was just, my kind of broad strokes feelings about it was that it's basically a 2-hour car chase movie, which is totally fine. And the effects are like, it's a beautiful blend of practical effects and CGI it's really unlike anything I've seen in recent memory. But I will say that by about the 90-minute mark, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm kind of done with you guys. I'm kind of done with this movie. I kind of ready for it to end. Yeah. And it got kind of long in the tooth there, but overall, I thought that the movie sustained itself well enough that incredibly shocked to find out that after the fact via podcasts and stuff that this was like shelved for a while. This had a really, really rocky development history behind the scenes. Like this was supposed to be made, or this was supposed to be released like years ago. There at one point there was talk of splitting it up into 2 movies, and there was 2 scripts. I don't know if there was ever 2 scripts, but there was a huge script. Like tons of stuff was shot and written and storyboarded and stuff, and to the point where it became a like, okay, let's just shoot it and be done, or something. I think that's how it went. So it's really interesting that it ended up being such a coherent for what it was, like as coherent as it was. I mean,
yeah, that's fair.
The story is kind of sparse, and it's kind of,
yeah,
it was kind of lacking in that. It was a very action-driven movie, and the characterizations were left a little bit to be desired, although I think that Charlize Theron's character had the strongest arc. She was the de facto star of the movie, despite the title, and there's nothing wrong with that. She did a phenomenal job, and there's moments where she reaches an emotional apex, I guess, and that works out really well. But it still kind of felt like more a display of the world that George Miller was building, rather than setting it in this world and then exploring the characters in it or the story that it yields.
The world was the star.
Absolutely.
the dystopic future.
That is such a more efficient way of saying what I just stumbled through for like sentences and sentences.
No, but you were right. I mean, the character interactions definitely left something to be desired.
Yeah.
There was a really big approach, or like a huge piece of potential between Charlize Theron's character Furiosa and Tom Hardy's character Mad Max, and there's just a ton of potential there, and they explored it a little bit, and I thought it was a pretty decent interaction, pretty decent relationship. There was no need for romance, and they left that out. Right. Thank God. That's just didn't fit either character.
Yeah, I think that. Sorry, I heard on /Filmcast, Dave Chen said that he heard on the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith that George Miller said that there's not a lot of like the movie takes place over like 3 days or something. There's not any time for any character to fall in love or anything, so it's useless. And I thought that I really appreciated that because
totally,
yeah.
But yeah, I thought that could have been a huge part of the movie, and it was just kind of a happenstance. It just kind of happened. That's how it seemed, anyways. So that was a bit of a drop, in my opinion. But again, I don't know where you would squeeze in all the extra stuff to make their relationship truly full, I guess, or
Would you mean,
to explore it fully, I guess.
Right.
To squeeze all that extra dialogue in and everything would have made the movie longer, and I don't know.
Right. When you say that it was a drop, do you mean that you would want them to have
I think it would have been
romantic relationship, or just like develop their interpersonal relationship just in general?
Just their interpersonal relationship.
Okay.
I didn't care to see them fall in love and make out and whatever. That just did not fit this movie at all.
I agree.
So I'm glad they didn't go that direction with it. But just I don't know. I think there was just some untapped potential there,
right?
To see how far those characters could go as a team with their relationship. But still fairly satisfying throughout the whole movie.
It's definitely a crowd pleaser. As weird as that sounds, because we're talking about, this movie's a crowd pleaser. Oh, there's a shot of women in chairs being just pumped just being pumped.
Yeah.
So
breast milk being pumped.
Yeah, which man, that was just that was a really unique image to have in that movie.
It was.
And so how did you feel about the actual world building and the whole universe building that the movie did, as someone who isn't that connected to or cognizant of the Mad Max universe?
That was arguably the strongest point of the movie, of the movie, in my opinion, because the shock value was just potent as all hell. I mean, there are a handful of scenes and moments throughout the movie that just you're just shocked and a little sickened, and I mean that in like a really good way because, like I said, it initially piqued my interest and carried my interest and curiosity throughout the entire movie. I never wanted to look away from the screen ever because there was just so much. Like what's going to happen next is kind of how you watch the movie. There's some scenes involving a pregnant woman. There's this awful world where there's water is the most valuable resource, and there's just this. You see all these people just dying of thirst slowly, like rotting away. And they actually have the opportunity to get water, and it's very disturbing to watch the main villain wield his power throughout this movie through withholding water. It's really disturbing, and I mean that in a complimentary way.
Oh, absolutely.
Those moments really, I wouldn't say they carried the movie, but those moments were so poignant that they really, as far as what I look for in a movie, really hit those notes and really meant something to me and kept me interested, because the action, which I think is arguably the best thing, maybe second best thing about the movie, is what kind of carries the movie. But those disturbing moments where you really are exposed to the harshness of dystopia and what this world is like, those really hit you on an emotional level, and that's what makes you not want to take your eyes off the screen.
Right. It really makes you kind of forgive the kind of sparse story and character development. Right. And it, in terms of the action, I'll just kind of leapfrog into discussion about the action because I agree with everything you said. Mm-hmm. The action was just out of this world.
Oh, it was.
It was. There's a moment where and it's featured in the trailer, I think, and also everyone's seen this movie, and we're the last two people to see it. But the moment where they kind of when they're going, everyone's going into that big sandstorm thing.
Yeah.
I was just like, my jaw was on the floor, and I was so revved up by it, and my pedal was to the metal. I can't do puns. No, I was just really floored by it, and the way that the action plays out is almost like symphonic. It's so bombastic, and there's such a symphony to it. Basically, it's just a beautiful
a melody to it.
A melody. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, even down to like the crazy, like the guys on drums on the back of the thing. And then the guy with the guitar is just, it's such a rich world. And to see everything get blown to hell is just so satisfying.
Yeah. It's such a distinct world.
Yeah.
Like the Mad Max world, like it's its own thing. Like nobody can, I don't see anybody matching that. Like, you can't. I'm not saying there are better. I'm saying there could be some other universes that have been created in other movies that are better. But this one is just, you know exactly what it is. It's so distinct, and it's just like, that is George Miller's Mad Max universe, and it's freaking cool. Yeah. There's nothing else like it.
And even from like just the opening, like that opening, you know that from the opening of him just standing there, and then he grabs the mutated thing and just bites it
and eats it. Yeah.
And it's just, that's such a great entry point to the world. So, so I think, is there anything else you really want to talk about with Mad Max, or should we transition? Because this is an impromptu episode. We're kind of,
it is
a little, truncated.
It was kind of in the news, I don't know about recently, maybe a month ago, where, I think maybe they were promoting this movie, or maybe, I can't remember exactly what it was, but someone asked, a journalist asked Tom Hardy about, did he have any, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, did you have any reservations about being in a film that was so representative of powerful women or something like that? Mm-hmm. Because femininity is a huge part of the movie.
Right.
And just, it was so great because Tom Hardy was just like, no. Because he's like, no, why? No, like that's because of course he wasn't, because the movie was freaking awesome.
Right.
And I just wanted to make a statement that I really appreciated the femininity that was represented in the film. I won't go into any spoilers, but there are several strong female characters in the movie, and it's just a very triumphant film for for women, and I think it was kind of cool to see. It was just like it's something you don't see a lot, at female action stars and whatnot. And I really appreciate it for that, because in a movie called Mad Max, you would think, it's just about some classic hero guy who kills people and is awesome, but he's arguably overshadowed by all the women in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, absolutely, I agree completely. And I'm like, the whole feminism in movies and that kind of, it's kind of a hot button kind of issue, like all that. I mean, it's hard to say. I didn't have any. I mean, I applaud the movie for on that effort and everything, but yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I agree completely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have that opinion for maybe the most noble reason. I don't have that opinion because I'm a feminist or whatever, or because I think, women's rights is like the most important thing to me. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it because it was just refreshing as a film fan.
Yeah.
As a fan of movies, it was cool to see, and I think it worked really well. It felt semi-original. It just had a great feel to it.
And I think what I'm probably trying to get at is that it's not, when I say this, it's going to sound bad, but I'm going to be more clear, but it's frustrating when, femininity kind of becomes a big focal point for a movie and everything. Cause I mean, it's like, it's 2015. I mean, I would love for a movie to have like a strong female centric, movie that is a crowd pleaser and is a hit and everything, and then no one really call attention to it because that's kind of the norm.
True.
And I mean, I understand, it's definitely the oversimplifying it a lot. What I'm trying to say, but it's just like I'm just kind of.
I think what you're saying is that it's kind of unfortunate that the political agenda kind of overshadows the quality of a film.
Somewhat, yeah. It's kind of like how,
or takes precedent over the quality of a film.
Yeah, not necessarily overshadows it or takes precedent, but kind of it becomes the main point of conversation, which in some cases, and in this case, maybe that is also, it needs to, because it is like I said, it's a hot button issue, and it's an issue that people are like feminists are still struggling with. Because I mean, even just today there was an article about, I think it was Jessica Chastain talking about how superhero movies over-sexualize women, and I agree, and that's really annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm not trying to be like a whatever. I'm not trying to make this. We're not trying to make this into a topic about that or anything. It's just, I just really hope for a day when there's not such a. When it's not such a unique experience to have a movie like this come out.
Yeah.
And have women at the focus of it.
It overtakes the narrative, kind of.
Yeah.
It's a little, it should be about other things sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road. What did you think of Nicholas Hoult?
I thought he was okay. I couldn't understand what he was saying half the time. And that was true of several characters. Like I stopped and rewind. I had to stop and rewind, and then after a while, I was like, I don't really care because I'm not sure how important the dialogue is, to be honest with you.
Right.
And so that bothered me. That genuinely bothered me, and I wasn't too crazy about it. But I appreciated his craziness, his very psychologically disturbed presentation of the character, which is a whole other. I really loved the whole like Citadel death cult kind of thing.
Yes,
that was just like super effective and really,
absolutely.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. I kind of wish it was explored a little further or expanded upon even more. But I mean, just seeing, even though it wasn't really that expanded that much or anything like that. I mean, just seeing them spray the chrome on their mouths as they're about to basically suicide themselves.
Yeah.
Into Valhalla or whatever.
Yeah.
It just, like, seeing that without any context just made it so surreal and interesting to me. Maybe even more so than if we had a bunch of exposition dumped on us about it. Also, I really, really loved the way that the movie, the frame rate kind of was altered throughout the movie. Like in action sequences, like the frame rate was just like snapped up like really quick, and
yeah, it was kind of cool.
It was very surreal, disorienting a little bit, but also really enhanced some of the imagery of it, and kind of in the immersion of it, I guess. It was interesting to see the pace of the movie depicted in the frame rate.
Yeah.
like it's a very fast-paced movie, and to see that like physically like actually visualize the film being sped up in certain points was just kind of really helped with the immersion of it, even in home viewing.
Totally.
So yeah, anything else you need to say about Fury Road?
I liked it, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, I have my qualms with it, and I was just a tiny bit disappointed. I thought it'd be a little bit more coherent, but still just a really awesome movie. Can't find too many faults with it.
Yeah, same here. I really, really enjoyed it, and hopefully, they make another one. I think that their plan is to make another one.
Cool.
And hopefully it delivers on the promise of this one.
Yeah.
So, Potpourri.
Let's get it smelling good up in here.
Yes.
Join the Obsessive Viewer podcast on October 16th, 2015 at the Irving Theater in Indianapolis for The Obsessive Viewer Presents Shocktober in Irvington Part 2. It's a one-night event screening of short horror films from local artists J.P. Leck and Snapshot Productions. There will be giveaways, raffles, interviews with the filmmakers, and so much more. All proceeds will go directly to the Irvington Historical Society. Go to shocktoberinirvington.com for more details. And prepare to be shocked.
For first-time listeners, and I'm sorry if this is not sorry. This is an irregular episode, so it's a little truncated and a little crazy. But Potpourri is the section of the podcast where we talk about anything we want as long as it smells good. Each week we have a topic, and then when we've exhausted that topic, we basically talk about stuff that we've watched lately or are looking forward to seeing and stuff like that. And Tiny, I know that you don't have much, but I have a ton. So I'm going to go ahead and throw out a couple of, actually, no, the first one I'm going to talk about is I went to the movie theater and watched the latest movie from M. Night Shyamalan, The Visit.
Oh, man.
And I can't believe I haven't brought this up on the podcast yet. Because I think it's been a couple weeks, but I can't remember our recording schedule. But the trailers, it's an interesting movie. It's a fairly interesting movie. The trailers make it out to look like it's a standard kind of grandparents, it seems like an almost witchcrafty. It looked a lot like Paranormal Activity 3, basically.
Okay.
The trailer did, and I don't know what I was expecting because M. Night Shyamalan. I mean, okay, to give context for my thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan going into this movie is a decade ago. I adored the guy. I mean, if I ever finish the decade review series on the blog, you guys will see it. I think at one point I referred to The Village as, I don't know if I actually said this in the review or not, but this is back when I was 18. I referred to The Village as M. Night Shyamalan's fourth masterpiece. So that's the frame of mind I had there. Then, after that, Lady in the Water came out, and then I kind of my tastes changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I haven't revisited like Signs and Unbreakable or the Sixth Sense in a while, and I think that they still hold up from memory and everything fairly well. But yeah, he has a troubled career.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Yeah. So The Visit. The Visit is his first like complete writing and directing credit, he has the full control over the product movie since 2000. I think it was 2008. The Happening.
Yeah, that movie.
Much maligned.
And
rightfully so. And so going into The Visit, in my head, I had this whole idea of M. Night Shyamalan worked out. I've thought for years that M. Night Shyamalan is a talented director who really, really earned the right to be referred to as the next Spielberg or the next Hitchcock through The Sixth Sense, because in terms of visualizing, in terms of the visual storytelling in that movie, the filming of it was really well done, and he can really shoot a suspenseful, tense scene. The problem with M. Night Shyamalan, though, is that he thinks he's a great director, but he also thinks he's a great writer. He thinks, I want to say that he's a really good director who thinks he's an auteur, who thinks that he has he thinks he has a hubris. I feel like his hubris has affected the quality of his work, and I think that after doing projects like, After Earth and The Last Airbender, which I never saw either one of those, but I think after that he just kind of, he went away, and I was hoping that The Visit would be a return to form, or at least an example of him coming back to what really becoming aware of what worked for him and what his strengths are. So that's a really, really long way to get to the point that I did not like The Visit. It was not a good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, in context with his filmography, it's better than The Happening. It's better than Lady in the Water, but not by much. It's interesting because this is a movie that's produced by Jason Blum, who has Blumhouse Productions, he's one of the producers from the original Paranormal Activity. He has really cornered the market on low budget horror movies that are highly profitable. It's actually fascinating. His business model is he throws like $5 million at a director. They create a horror movie, and they reap benefits from it. It's really kind of staggering. So same deal with M. Night Shyamalan. Through The Visit, Adam, M. Night Shyamalan had Final Cut and everything, and it's just kind of a mess. But man, I really think that there is a really good movie in the Visit.
Yeah, really.
It's you haven't seen it, right?
I have not seen it. No.
So I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but basically the plot of the movie is it's a found footage / faux documentary movie about two teenage kids who go to visit their grandparents who they're just meeting for the first time.
Okay.
So the daughter is this 15, 16-year-old girl who's really into filmmaking. She's filming a documentary about their visit, and she's hoping to kind of bridge the frayed relationship between her grandparents and her single mother, because their father had moved away or had left them. And so anyway, and then the younger son or the younger kid is like, I think he's like 12 or 13. He's like 13. He's an aspiring rapper,
Jesus,
who freestyle raps 3 times in the movie.
Oh my God.
And he's like a super obnoxious kid, but I mean, I'll give credit where it's due. I actually was rooting for him throughout the movie. I mean, there was like in the first 15 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I really hate this kid. I can't really stand him. But then as the movie kind of unfolded, I was like, you know what? He's not bad. And across the board, the acting was just not that good.
Yeah.
The girl was the standout though. There's a moment, there's a scene where she's filming like an interview with, the grandmother. And throughout the progression of the movie, the source of the tension through the movie, and I apologize that I'm all over the place with this review, but the tension of the movie is doled out through there's something weird going on with the grandparents, and like they keep getting written off as like, oh, it's just old people being old people, but there's something peculiar going on, and it's supposed to be frightening. It wasn't that effective, but I mean, it was just like crazy stuff, like scratching at night. There's a steadfast rule where the kids have to be in bed by 9:30. That isn't really fully explored or anything, and they hear just weird stuff and everything. So anyway, this is really long-winded, but so M. Night Shyamalan, he has a tendency to set up things and to set up certain character arcs or to take backstories of characters and set them up in a way that every single one of them has to have a payoff. And that's, I mean, I'm thinking like in Signs, the little girl's weird, I have to leave water sitting around and everything. Right. And I mean, that's effective there because there's a purpose for it.
Yeah.
And it serves the kind of central theme of the movie. But like, it's like that kind of thing in this movie is the same, but it's not like in the same context or anything, but it's like, oh, this kid has a personal problem. Or this kid has a problem that is going to pay off in the climax of the movie in a really ham-fisted, really weird way. But anyway, so my whole point, and I swear to God, I'll let you talk. But the good movie that is in The Visit is, believe it or not, in the twist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm super naive, and I didn't go into the movie expecting there to be an M. Night Shyamalan twist. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of thought like, okay, it's been like 10 years since he had anything since he was culturally relevant.
Yeah.
He has to be aware that, a twist is going to be,
it's a gimmick at this point.
And it's a joke. And I just realized that, saying that there's a twist in a movie is a spoiler in and of itself. But I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a twist, honestly. It's more the explanation of the strange behavior. Mm-hmm. And in that explanation, there could have been such a much more effective thriller, a much more engaging story, but the movie just ultimately just crapped the bed through crappy, characterization and stuff like that. Like, my final thought on it is that there's a piece of trivia on IMDb that says that M. Night Shyamalan cut 3 versions of the movie. There's one version that's strictly comedy, one version that's strictly horror, and then the final version that's a mixture of both. Now, I understand that editing, like tone and everything, is completely dependent on editing. Editing is like a large percentage of the process, but I don't know if he conceived of the movie as a horror comedy, because there is a lot of comedy that is very, very clear that he doesn't understand how people talk, and like he has a very strange viewpoint of the world. Like there's three people that the kids interact with that aren't their grandparents, and when they're on their visit, it's a week-long visit to their grandparents. It's just them. Their mother's on a cruise, and then oh God, okay. 2 things. I'm so sorry, but the 2 out of the 3 people that they encounter, like one guy on a train and one guy that comes to see the grandparents, like both of them, they're just like, "Oh, you're filming a documentary? Oh, I used to be a pretty good actor." I mean, I don't understand. Like, okay, it's just a throwaway line for 2 characters that have nothing to do with each other to say in Eastern Pennsylvania. Like, is that supposed to be a joke or something? I don't understand. And then there's Skype scenes with the mother on the cruise. It's so awkward. It's so weird, because it's like you see people in the background dancing, but it's like you're seeing a bunch of extras rehearsing for an infomercial that they're shooting, advertising some kind of cruise package or something like that. Like, it's that kind of stilted, like really weird, like thing. And then the mother, played by, what's her name? Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm having a great time. And I'm like, are you around real people? Cause that's not how people act in the background. So I don't know. So The Visit was just a mess. Much like my review of The Visit. It was a complete mess, and I don't really recommend it to anyone. And
well, I'm curious because I'm basically sick of found footage. Mm-hmm. I'm just like sick of it, and so I'm curious. Do you think the movie would have benefited better if it was not a found footage movie?
I would hesitate to call it found footage exactly. That's why I kind of said like found footage / faux documentary, because it is filmed as like a documentary, but it's also it's filmed as a documentary because she's making a documentary. So there's scenes where she's interviewing her grandparents.
Okay.
And it's actually not it's like talking heads from The Office.
Gotcha. And
so it's like that. It's not mockumentary, but just a fake documentary kind of style. Having said that, I'm so back and forth on found footage itself. I mean, I feel like the movie did a good job of presenting why the characters would be filming stuff, because that fake documentary thing is just the biggest trouble, or the biggest complaint I hear about people complaining about found footage is saying that, you need to explain why they're still filming something, because a big monster is attacking New York City, and you have what's his name, TJ Miller in the background saying we need to film this because people are going to want to know what happens.
Right.
Okay, helicopters are filming it.
It's okay.
Yeah. But with this, it's kind of the conceit of the movie is that she's making a documentary to mend the fences between her grandparents and her mother. So there is a narrative reason for it to be found footage. And by the end of it, it's just, oh my God. Oh yeah. By the end of it, it's just, it sustains itself well. I will say, my God, I've never, M. Night Shyamalan is really, he shows that he has no idea of when to have comic relief and when to have that cut the tension in a scene, because it's so there are so many scenes. There's a scene at the climax of the movie where a character is reaching their the pinnacle of the tension that they could possibly, the most tense scene that they could be enduring, or the most intense situation, and I laughed out loud. I completely, it was, I didn't even care. It was an elaborate just expulsion of laughter, and a few people in the audience also did that because it's played off it's so weird and so dumb. So man, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm definitely going to see it.
When you do, make sure you bring it up, and we'll talk about it in more detail, because I wanted to write a review of it, but I was just and I thought a lot about it, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it, because it was frustrating, because he could be okay, but he thinks that, I don't know,
but he sucks.
But he sucks. I mean,
no, he doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Some of his stuff sucks.
Yeah, I mean, when The Happening came out and they had the scene where they're literally being chased by wind.
Yeah.
The Happening is a terrible, terrible movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was one of the people that was like, you know what? He at least has the talent to be able to he can effectively show a scene of people being chased by wind. As ridiculous as that sounds, the way that he depicted the way that he visually followed the tension and was able to capture that was as effective as that movie could possibly be.
Right.
But man, that's the thing. When you asked about found footage, I was so frustrated because he has a very specific visual style in which he uses a lot of tracking shots and a lot of in order to fill the frame with as much tension as possible. He has these long tracking shots in all of his movies that are really well handled and do that. By making it a found footage movie, I was like, he's handicapping his one really good talent.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the big frustrating thing about the movie.
Gotcha.
So, Potpourri, what do you got? I mean, I apologize for being so long-winded on that, but
that's okay. It's M. Night Shyamalan's fault, really. Yeah. It's his fault.
Right.
No, I've kind of been watching things sporadically, and I still watch a lot of stuff. I mean, me and my girlfriend watch TV every day, but we just kind of watch stuff that I didn't really think was like, I didn't really think I could bring up on the podcast.
Right.
So like, I think I can. It's just that it's just so out of my realm of what I typically watch, that it just feels weird bringing it up. But, one thing that a show that she's a fan of that I've watched like 3 episodes of it with her is, there's this show on network. It might be CBS. It's called The Mysteries of Laura. And
I've never heard of that.
It stars, I'm not going to be too hard. It stars Deborah Messing.
Okay.
And you're going to love this. It's a police procedural.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's called The Mysteries of Laura. I hate the title. The title's it just doesn't fit. And she plays a detective, a homicide, or I think some kind of detective in New York City. Of course, it has to be in New York City.
Right. What's her name in the show?
Laura, I don't remember what her last name is, but
I'm
okay. Yeah, funny. She's a single mother, and of course, her ex-husband is the captain at the precinct that she's a detective at.
Okay, sure.
And it's just your I'm trying to think of things that make it unique. It's a classic police procedural, and where there's a new case every week, and of course they solve the whole thing in the whole 43-minute length of the show. But there is some serialized parts of it where, you know, they do develop her character throughout the season, and they develop her relationships with people, and the other characters get some storylines, and so there's some serialization to it. But it's just like it's just such an unfortunate trend that we're getting all these police procedurals, and they're trying to make them their own by, she's a single mother, and there's comedy in there. There is some comedy, and I've laughed at it a few times, but it's just, when I think of network TV, I think of The Mysteries of Laura. Really? And it's just like that's what you get on network anymore. It's just like, it's just so standard. And it's not horrible.
And safe. It sounds like
it's safe. Yeah. It's like I can sit there and watch an episode and I'm not lost at all. I don't, it doesn't matter that I haven't seen the past development of her character and their relationship. It's like, they've had some fights, and then they got feelings for each other, and then they kind of had sex once, and then, oh my God, are they going to get back together again? And it's just like, I knew exactly what's happening. And
also, if you just watched an episode in the middle of the season, you wouldn't be Breaking Bad either. Because you said you were, I waited too long to say this. I didn't want to interrupt you, but said I wouldn't be lost at all. You also wouldn't be Breaking Bad. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're hilarious.
I know.
But it's just like, I guess obviously there's a huge amount of people who want that out of their television. And like,
sure. Yeah. And yeah. Sorry.
I guess there's nothing wrong with that. I'm obviously a snob. Like, I like to watch stuff. I like cable shows and good stuff. It's just like, I realize I'm being a snob, and like, I'm kind of a jackass about it, but it's like, I can sit down and watch a random episode and tell you a lot of the stuff that happened to the characters before it. It's not because I'm smart and I can pick up on things like that. It's because the show is very generic and recycled, and it's like, you tweak one little thing and you think you have a whole new fresh show, but you don't. And it's like, it's just kind of frustrating that that's what's popular. And
yeah, and
I don't. Like I said, it's not a bad show. It's really not bad. Like I said, I can watch it and I can laugh. I can follow the story and be relatively entertained. But I'm not like, let's watch the new episode of Mysteries of Laura, because it's like, it's just something to throw on, kind of, and it's just not all that artistically satisfying for me, and I shouldn't be so hard on that stuff, but it's just. It's what I'm watching a lot of now is stuff like that. My girlfriend loves Mike and Molly. Right. Watch that all the time.
You've mentioned that on the podcast before.
Yeah. Which is kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same style.
It's
derivative. It's just usually it's all just so derivative now.
Background noise TV. As snobby as that is to say.
Right.
And I admit too that we're both snobs when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, something to throw on.
Mm-hmm.
Question/challenge. I don't know what the challenge is in this, but is there another like network show that you guys watch week to week that you've seen multiple episodes of that you can think of that I haven't seen anything of? Because I think it would be interesting to come back at a later date and like have me watch an episode midstream, and then have you watch the same episode after watching it in sequence week to week, and then compare notes about it. I don't know how interesting that would be, but
the thing is, I don't watch every episode. So like, okay. I think there's been like 4 episodes this season. I've only seen 1.
Right. But like, I mean, I'm talking about a show that like you haven't brought up at all, that you're ashamed to admit. Not really ashamed, but you know. No,
because like I said, there's nothing that she has her shows and I have mine, right? And we mostly watch her stuff because my stuff is super niche, and you know, she doesn't want to watch The Bastard Executioner. No. She doesn't want to watch that. She doesn't want to watch Falling Skies or anything like that, which I'm really behind on.
I keep forgetting that you even watch that show.
Yeah. And you know, I can watch those shows, and she's disinterested in them. She can't watch them, but I can sit there and at least not want to kill myself watching Mike and Molly and The Mysteries of Laura, and she does like Modern Family, which I still love that show. We watch Modern Family, and that show is great. I think it's still funny, and I love that show.
I have always meant to go back and catch up with it.
But yeah, it's just, like I have a great time with it. I still have a great time watching these shows because they're. Honestly, because I'm watching it with my girlfriend and she's great, but but it's just I haven't watched stuff like this, and it's just kind of weird falling into this universe a little bit.
I can see it being kind of jarring.
It is.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird, but
interesting. So that's The Mysteries of Laura, and you highly recommend it. Hulu.
Yeah, you know, Deborah Messing looks amazing.
Really?
That's a good looking woman. I mean, she's like damn near 50. She looks great.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So she's nice to look at.
Yeah. We say in an episode where we applauded Mad Max's femininity.
Yeah. That's the best thing about the show is she's hot.
Right. Well, according to Hulu, she also raises 2 devilish twin sons or something.
That too.
Which is interesting because is it like presented as a drama, or are you watching it as a drama? Because it only says comedy on Hulu.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I guess. There's a lot of drama in it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's whatever. It's a dramedy. I'll give it dramedy. I will not give it comedy. It's not a comedy. It's a dramedy at best.
Okay. Okay, so I have a couple more things I can throw out here. One is one that we've talked about before, but I hadn't seen it yet. Pitch Perfect 2. I circled back and watched that.
Nice.
Yeah. You know, I thought it was pretty funny. I thought it was good. It kind of, I was a little bothered that they kind of they introduced this whole international singing competition thing, and then that took such a back burner thing to where the point where they actually reached the finals or whatever, or the competition in, I think it was Copenhagen or someplace that like they had to fly somewhere, and it was an international competition like that. It seemed like just a complete afterthought, and kind of just something that was just like, okay, we got all of the major subplots and plot lines and everything in the movie like resolved and everything. So now we do the thing that was introduced as the conceit of the entire plot line of the movie. It was just kind of felt just really, I don't know. And the antagonists were just like, they popped up a couple times. I thought it was charming that the way Anna Kendrick played off of the woman that was the head of it. Like I thought that was charming, but it was like, I don't see these people as formidable foes for them, and kind of followed some of the same narrative beats of the first movie, but kind of redressed. Like they have their riff off, but it's slightly different, but it's also like it's probably at the same point as the first movie is in terms of runtime.
Yeah.
And I mean, they introduced some new characters that are okay, but for the most part, I just thought that it was, I wouldn't say that it was subpar or anything like that, but it was just okay.
Yeah. I agree. It lacked the charm and the endearing quality of the first one.
Yeah. And there was another, like in the first one, it's kind of a tongue in cheek kind of like, okay, everyone takes acapella really seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this one, it's like that in the first one, that was kind of like, look at this college that where everyone cares, like all of these people care so much about this thing that's, it's a cappella.
And it's goofy.
goofy. It's super goofy.
Yeah.
And then in this one, it's like, look at how everyone takes this very seriously.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't dislike it. I did think that and this is something that sequels just in general seem to do. They tend to expand the bigger things that made the first one so good. Like one of my favorite parts of the first movie was the announcers played by
Elizabeth Banks
and I can't remember his name.
John Michael Higgins.
Yeah, John Michael Higgins. Like the announcers in the first movie, that was just fantastic. Like,
yeah,
they were awesome, and I really appreciated that they were podcasters in the second one.
Yeah,
and I really like on a deep level, I loved that the name of the podcast was Let's Talk Capella.
Yes,
but I felt like they were a little overused in it.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
much less subtle.
Yeah, and the comedy there was at least a stretch of the movie is a lot of it was kind of the sub characters of the group. They kind of played up like simple like little pieces here or their only lines consisted of the quirky like type of character that they were like throughout the first movie. Like they took what was established in the first movie as what defined each one of the characters as like the soft talker one or kind of slutty one, all that kind of stuff. And in the sequel, it's just like, it seemed like a lot of the characters who were not Anna Kendrick, it kind of seemed like every line was just like, I'm the gay black girl.
Yeah.
Like I think at one point she literally says that in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I was just like, okay, give something to define them as characters.
Right. True.
Yeah.
But still very funny. A lot of jokes.
Yeah, a lot of the jokes landed for me.
Yeah.
And, I thought it was Aka okay, not Aka awesome.
Nice.
So, yeah. I have other stuff we can talk about, but I mean, we can talk about those later. We can kind of wrap it up here.
The last thing
else? Yeah, go ahead.
Just to round us out, the last thing I'll say, I was in the last episode or maybe the episode before, I said I was going to watch The Bastard Executioner.
I think it was the last episode, yeah.
Yeah, and I watched the premiere and everything. I can't do it, guys. I'm so sorry. I was trying to watch it at home before I came here. Yeah, I just don't care. I just don't care about the characters or the story or the action or anything. It's just so mediocre. It could be a decent show. It's just not good enough to hold my attention. I just can't do it. So I apologize for that. You're not going to be getting any more updates on that show. But I was halfway through the second episode and I was just like, I can't see the direction of this show. I don't know what it's about really. I can't fully understand the motivation of like any of these characters. It's just so vague and just I just didn't get it. And it has nothing that makes me want to come back to it. So, sorry guys, I'm done with that. I can't follow it anymore. So, yeah, I let you down.
You let us down. All of our listeners. No, that's fine. That's totally understandable.
Mm-hmm.
I never got around to seeing the pilot, and I'm glad that I now have no excuse to.
It sucks.
I had really no interest in seeing it, and I mean, it wasn't even on my radar, so, yeah. So next week, for the podcast, we're going to have, at least, I think what we're going to do is do an episode review of The Martian, which I am excited for you to see that. I saw it last night, and, I'm really looking forward to the discussion there.
Nice.
Might try to get Fecus back on for that. Yeah, and then we are also going to have a special episode with some filmmakers from one of the shorts we'll be screening at Shocktober in Irvington. So be on the lookout for that. And also, thanks for listening and happy podcast day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. So, Tiny, did you know that today is International Podcasting Day?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, damn, why didn't I get champagne?
Right? You should have.
And why am I not being fawned over by many girls?
I was I was seriously going to tweet, like, I was on the brink of, like, actually writing out this tweet. I was going to be like, wow, in honor of International Podcasting Day, every woman on the planet has decided to just ignore me. It's also Wednesday. But I didn't want it to be like a kind of pathetic thing. Wow. Like, I didn't know if the joke would land. Or if people would just be like, oh, that's just Matt being mad again.
That's funny.
Yeah. Since it's an impromptu episode, I'm just going to go with it. Welcome to an impromptu episode of The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show. Every episode, I thought that would be good, but then I realized, like, well, we could probably do the... Oh, God, I just messed all that up.
Yeah,
because, like, before I did that, I was like, we can just record the intro stuff later.
You tried to run with it, though.
I tried.
A for effort.
Yep.
A for effort.
Thank you for listening to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at OVPodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast app. The Obsessive Viewer's theme song is An Eclipse of Events and is provided by Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. You can find that and more great music from them on iTunes and like their Facebook page at facebook.com/loudlikemusic. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. You can email the hosts individually at Matt, Tiny, or Mike at ObsessiveViewer.com or send an email to the podcast in general at podcast@ObsessiveViewer.com. Check out the Obsessive Viewer blog at ObsessiveViewer.com, where we post movie and TV reviews and the occasional editorial about the business of entertainment. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer and follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer, at ObsessiveTiny, and at IamMikeWhite. If you want more obsessive content in your life, check out our sister site, ObsessiveBookNerd.com, for book reviews, author spotlights, and a general celebration of reading. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the podcatcher of your choice. Again, thank you so much for listening. We love you. Be excellent to each other.